2, 1. Welcome, everybody. My name is Frank Salas. I go by the name The Talented Mr. Salas, and as part of my service to the talent tribe, it is my duty to scour the earth and find global gems like Marc and Julie Bennett, who are living the digital nomad every single day. They're broadcasting live from their RV right now, their recreational vehicle. I got a Grand Master Tour. Maybe we'll get one today. Maybe we won't. We'll see. But it's a cool place, and they've got like all these little hidden nooks and crannies in that RV to really run their businesses. And they're on the road right now, but I want to have them introduce themselves because they live a very unique lifestyle. Marc and Julie, thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Frank, for having us.
Hey, we're excited to be here. We're excited to finally be here. We had a little trouble getting logged on, but we're awesome. We're so excited to be part of this and to be hanging out with you at last. And yeah. And so, yes, we do live the life. We've been on the road for over 2.5 years now, and we currently in a town called Alamogordo, New Mexico, which isn't a super exciting town in and of itself, but it's White Sands National Monument is right here, and that's pretty spectacular. So.
Yeah, I've been to the White Sands over there. It's a cool place. It's just like nothing but white sand. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it white because of some kind of nuclear test or something like that?
People will joke about that because there is a military base and there is a lot of missile testing and bomb testing here. But it's just gypsum, but which is the stuff you make drywall out of. But it's pretty cool.
So you guys live in an RV. How big is your RV?
Our RV is about 36 feet long, and when it's got its slides out, it's about 12 feet wide, it's actually pretty funny because before we hit the road, we had a townhome, and that townhome was 35 feet long and 14 feet wide, but it had more than one floor. But this is just one level, of course, but it's everything we could ever need. It's got our bedroom, the front 2 office spaces, the kitchen, the bathroom, the dining room, like a living area.
And you step outside the door and you're in a state park or a national park or by the beach or a lake, or sometimes you're just in the middle of nowhere too, like in the desert. I mean, it's not all,
It's not all glam. Sometimes you're in like the middle of a inner city parking lot next to an 11-line rail yard station.
Right. Or in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's really a great places and a lot of great things to see. We've actually been to all of the lower 48 states, and while still working full time. And so that's a pretty big achievement, in this day and age when so many people have so little time off to be able to get out and see all 48 states with that limited time off. And it's really been a great ride.
So how do you guys go from a 2-story townhouse to an RV? Where is this transition? How do we get from there to there?
This is a 3-story three-story townhouse because we finished the basement. Well, it's about 1,800 square feet altogether, about 600 feet per floor. And it's just the 2 of us. We don't have kids. At the time, we had a dog, and we started out on the road with a dog, but unfortunately we lost her, so it's just the 2 of us now. But, we were already both working from home, and so we're kind of already used to being at home in one place together. And you were upstairs in the office, I was downstairs in an office, but we still, we visited a lot during the day and had lunch and hang out, and we're very compatible, and we like hanging out and spending time together. We're not a couple that needs to have a lot of time apart. So I think that wasn't as scary a concept as downsizing. And funnily enough, that townhome that Marc was describing to you, it wasn't an end unit. So actually there were no windows on the length of the townhome. The windows were at the front and at the back on the where the courtyard was. And so we're surrounded by windows in the RV. I mean, you can look at them. Today we've been looking at these mountains right in front of us in Alamogordo. We've got a beautiful little natural scaping succulent garden off to this side and sunset over that side today. So we're looking out into the world a lot more now. Even though our physical space is smaller, we actually see a lot more world from inside our coach, as well as, of course, every time we step out. So it wasn't too hard to downsize, really.
So you guys have internet, Wi-Fi, hot water, microwaves. Do you guys have TV? Do you have television?
Yeah.
This TV. It had 5. When we moved in, it had 5, and we don't even watch TV.
Yeah, that was actually a really funny thing with this RV is it had 5 televisions when we bought it, and we literally we haven't turned on the TV in 2016. And so we don't watch it, but we have every convenience you could ever need. In fact, that's one of the things that's funny for folks that haven't really seen an RV like this is when you step inside it, people are really shocked and amazed at how homey it is, because it's 300 square feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it's so well organized that it's actually really big. And you've got the refrigerator, we've got a microwave, we've got a stove, we've got an oven, we've got everything. We actually cook more gourmet meals in this than we did back in our stick and brick home.
Yeah, so. Get fancy.
That's awesome. Okay, so how do you handle the poo situation? How do you handle like the septic? I don't know. How does that work?
Which one?
It's your job. The black tanks.
Oh, jumped in the tanks. Yeah, that's mostly my job. Yeah, that's
you have blue jobs and pink jobs in an RV. And I know that sounds a little sexist. You can divvy up the jobs however you like, but we decided that's definitely a blue job for the boys.
Yeah, well, and it's really not that bad. I mean, sometimes when you're in a campground that has what they call full hookups, which would mean you're hooked up to city water, you're hooked up to city power, and a sewer line. I mean, it's just like you can take a 15-minute shower and just, it doesn't matter. It's just like living in a regular home. It's not like you're limited at all. You have unlimited water, unlimited power, and then you can just leave one of the valves open to just let the water keep running out. But yes, in general, even then, it's still not a big deal. You pull a couple little levers, assuming you've got good quality hose that doesn't break and make a big spill. Knock on wood, I've never had an issue. So
it's funny the kind of things that become important in an RV life, like having a really good quality sewer hose. I mean, if that
spend
breaks,
money on that.
Don't cheap out on a sewer hose. That's one of the things that makes your life miserable. If it's you get a leak there, it's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
Okay,
but that's really.
So this whole thing is manageable, which I dig, which I can get to. I love the fact that you can look out and just change your surroundings and be wherever you want to be, national parks. What is the investment for a typical RV? If someone wants to maybe, like I would love to have a nice RV and just drive around and see my friends in North America or wherever. How much should I budget for something like that?
Well, Julie likes to say how long is a piece of string, because we've seen it run the gamut. We've actually hung out in $1.5 million coaches, and we've hung out in $6,000 coaches. So you can really spend as much or as little as you want. We've got some friends from my work that actually full-time have been on the road for, I think, 9 months in one of those $7,000 RVs. So they've been living in that for 9 months. And, it's not that that was all they could afford. They just decided that they wanted to put all their money into other things. So
they're like late 20s.
Yeah, they're late 20s with the goal of retiring in their 30s. So they're just trying to live very frugally to stack some big cash. But, you can buy a really nice rig. One like ours, you could easily buy one of these for under $100,000. So it sounds like a lot, but it's a whole lot less than what we would have paid for our townhome. We can actually live this life full of travel for less than it cost us to live in that townhome, because you don't have a lot of the other expenses. You can spend a lot of money though. Like if you stay at places that have big overnight fees,
right,
and you drive really far, really frequently, then you'll probably drop some cash. Yeah.
But I think anyone that really wants to live this lifestyle, Frank, can do it. And it just depends on your budget. If you say, I've only got 20 grand to spend on an RV, you could find something you could live in, especially if you're single. I don't know if you're a single guy or what, but, you need less space for one person. More people, you need more space. So there are plenty of people that do it in vans or, there are people who do it in those tiny little tab, they're super cute little tab trailers that are really fashionable now. I mean, there are people who do it in that, like even full-time. that's not our gig. It's probably a little small, but we still have.
Well, I think part of it too is, you know, the reason we went a little bit on the bigger side, and ours is like actually smaller than the average motorhome. You'll see them 45 feet long. But the reason we went as big as we did at 36 feet is because we live in this RV, we work in this RV, and, you know, it's our whole gig, you know. So when we have to work full time and you live your regular life, you want to have that space and separate workspaces because we both work.
What if we weren't working? Like Marc's got a full-time job, an 8 to 5 job for a company. He's not self-employed like a lot of people on the road are. A lot of nomads have their own businesses, or they're remote, or they're programmers or whatever. But he actually has a regular 8 to 5 job for a company, which is really unusual. We don't meet as many people with that. So he's literally got a dedicated office. He doesn't just hang out at the dining room table and work, because he needs to have like really full proper ergonomics, you know, keep gray, dual monitors, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So that's my next question. You can either work remotely or you could have your own business. It's typically your two options that you have. So Marc, you have a full-time job and you're able to perform every duty just like you were in an office, correct?
I absolutely do. Yeah, I'm director of operations for a nutritional supplement company. When I hit the road, I was a project manager. So I've actually had 2 promotions in the last couple of years doing this. But as far as being able to do everything I would normally do, my supervisor had said I'm one of the most connected people in the company, that he's never been able to not get a hold of me. And it's because we make that a priority. But yeah, I mean, it's totally doable. In fact, I didn't even tell people that I left our stick and brick home and was on the road for 6 months, because I wanted it to be totally seamless. I wanted it to be like, I wanted the day that it came out that, oh, I can totally tell you right on the road. I'm like, oh, really? Well, you couldn't tell the previous 6 months, did you? So I waited because I just wanted to do that. So.
Yeah, he didn't want anyone like focusing on, oh, Marc's on the road now, we're going to pay more attention to whether or not he's on calls and what his connectivity is like. He just thought, we'll just go under the radar, and it worked.
Yeah.
And I think one of the funny things is that Marc's mom was really worried that it was going to affect his career. Because, you know, that generation, it's hard, I think, for a lot of, you know, parents or grandparents to imagine that you can work remotely and use the internet to either do your job or start a business. And there are so many opportunities available now thanks to technology. And not only has he been able to do it, but he's had 2 promotions. So I think,
That's amazing, and that is just a great beacon of hope for a lot of people who are stuck in an office doing stuff that they don't like. So, Marc, would you recommend for employers to allow their staff to work remotely? Is that something that you find value, and how is that going to benefit the big picture, the business, and the bottom line?
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, it is a good question, Frank. And I think for the most part, I would recommend it. I mean, obviously it's not for everybody, but our company that is a really good example, because when I first came on board, we're a fairly young entrepreneurial company, and therefore they embraced the remote working things. So even though most everybody worked from their home office, but it was in stick and brick homes, and people like me, I'm actually more productive when I'm at home in my quiet and my solitude than I am in an office, because I have so many distractions in an office. So if you've got the right kind of talent, you can absolutely improve the bottom line, because you don't need the expense of running an actual office facility. And I've found a lot of our employees at the company work way more hours than they would in an office. 1, because they don't have the distraction of the water cool conversations. But 2, since they don't have the commute, now they, you know, have that extra time, and some of them invest that into the work. I don't. I invest that into my joy, not my work. But yeah, the company has a lot lower expenses, and they're able to bring in top talent nationwide. So, you know, we say, oh, well, this person, they're really top talent in this skill set. They live in Idaho, but our main office is in Texas. Well, who cares? We'll hire them in Idaho and have them work remote. So I think there's a lot of pros to it. I mean, obviously, some people function better in an office, and because of that, we did set up an office once we got a little more critical mass. And some people do love doing that, but that was actually one of the big impetuses for me to hit the road, is because when they said they wanted to open an office and it was in the metro area where I lived, I was like, I got to get out of here, because if they open this office, they're going to start wanting me to come here. So that was one of the things that booted us on the road. Put a little fire
under our plans. We were just like, we have to speed up the plan a little bit so that Marc doesn't have to go to the office. But, you know, that was a great point. But I think to your question, Frank, that I think a lot of companies are afraid to let their employees work from home because they can't keep an eye on them. And they don't trust that people are going to work and produce. But, you know, I think...
Well, and a lot of people, because they are worried about the visual that they aren't working, right. I think some people work even harder from home because they were trying to improve themselves. And I've found that to be true as well. So there's going to be exceptions to that rule, but I think by and large, that's what we found.
So that's on the work side. Tell us about the personal benefits that you guys have personally experienced by being on the road. Obviously, you can change your location. Maybe your expenses are more affordable. You have more money to invest in your joy and other investments if you so choose. Give me some more personal benefits.
Well, I think definitely talk about the financial one first, because that was a big consideration for us. And when we lived at home in our stick and brick, we had a monthly budget since we very first started, when we first moved in together, did our budget on a monthly basis, and we were able to see that 2/3 of our expenses were fixed and 1/3 were variable. You know, fixed, like, you know, your mortgage, your HOA, car payments, you know, utilities, etc. When we moved into an RV, that flipped. So it's actually 1/3 of fixed now because it's much lower. We have a mortgage on the RV. You can get a mortgage on an RV just like you can on a home. But remember, it is a depreciating asset, and I think most people probably are aware of that. So that's why we didn't want to overinvest in our coach. We could have got one twice as expensive, but then it's like, you know, bigger payments, more interest, yet a bigger loss, you know, yada, yada. But so now 1/3 of our expenses are fixed and 2/3 are variable. And there's a lot of freedom in that, because if anything happens with anyone's job or income, which can happen to any of us these days, because it's just not security, job security doesn't exist like it used to, it's a lot less stress because you've got 2/3 of that is variable. You can slow down your travel, spend less money on gas, don't go out as often, that kind of a thing. So we're actually saving more than we were. So we're spending less, saving more. Another thing is, I think, the people. I mean, we've kind of found our tribe. Initially, I was really worried about, I'm a social person, I'm an extrovert. I moved from Australia to Colorado, which is where we lived, and worked really hard to build a new network in 2008 when I moved out. And I was scared to leave those relationships behind and go into the road and be moving all of the time and not being able to really build solid friendships and relationships. But it took a while. I think it took a good 3 to 6 months to get into the groove, but we've actually met awesome people because everyone else has done the same thing. Everyone else has stepped off the treadmill of life, and they've all had the courage to go and live this life. And so you find your peeps, you know, you're like, oh, you can really immediately, well, not immediately, but very quickly get into much deeper levels of conversation and connection with people because you have those things in common, rather than, you know, having to spend a long time doing all the crappy small talk, because you don't really bother with that so much because you don't know if you're going to see that person again. If they're cool, you just dive right into really interesting conversations and sharing stories of your travels or how you came to live the life. And you just meet people you would never have normally met in your regular community and neighborhood at home.
That's right. And I think you maximize your life more than you would in your stick and bricks, because I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know a lot of people who have lived in the same area for a long period of time, and yet the only time they go and see one of the local attractions would be if someone came in from out of state and they'll show it to them, right? They might have lived there 10 years and like never been to this like really cool thing nearby. But for us, we're only going to be there for 2 weeks. We're like, we got to see it now, because that's the only time there is, right? So
we don't waste weekends. We don't, like we said, we don't watch television, but I think maybe I could count on one hand in the last 2 years and 4 months that we've had a weekend at home and done very little. Like you can count on one hand, and that's over 100 weekends.
That's a lot of weekends. Yeah.
And usually when it's raining, and then it's actually a relief. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's actually really nice to have a rainy day because we're always out doing something cool and driving around Yellowstone and hiking in the Grand Canyon. It's like, oh, it's nice to just be home and just do nothing, read a book, because we don't do that very often.
We don't. And the weather thing's an interesting point too, because we have all the freedom, we move with the weather, right? So in the winter, we're in the south, and when in the summer, we're in the north. And so we're always in these really good temperatures to be outside and enjoying it. So that's something different too. A lot of folks who, up in the Northeast, when you get, iced in the winter, we'll be hanging out in Florida Keys. So it's very different.
That's awesome. So you brought up a huge, little, for lack of a better word, sticking point that I really want to delve into. So, Julie, you talked about the treadmill of life, and I know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about, but maybe people who are listening to this don't really know. They're not aware that they're on the treadmill of life. Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Absolutely. I think most people, when you live in your home, in your community, and you drive your car the same road and the same route to work every day, and you go to work and you do your job, and you probably go to the same place for lunch every day, or if you don't take your lunch, and then you come home, the same thing, and then, come home and cook dinner or stop at the store or do homework with the kids or sit down and watch television because you're so exhausted from the day and the commute and the stress of work and all of those things, and you just collapse in front of the television and just veg out really until it's time to go to bed and do it all over again the next day. And I think for a lot of people, maybe they don't stop and think that there are other very different ways to live because most other people around them are doing the same thing, right? So it's hard to see. I think a lot of people see what we're doing is so out there, and I guess it is for some people. When we started researching it, we thought it was pretty out there. Of course, now it doesn't seem out there at all. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that it is. But I think a lot of people don't always give themselves permission to think about different ways to live. And, I think you can, it's a feeling, I think people know if something's not really gelling with them, if they're feeling a little bit flat or, sometimes it's a bit depressed, or you might be overdoing it with the drinking or other things, or even television, having a bit of an addiction to that, just losing yourself in something else so you don't have to think about or focus on the drudgery of everyday life. And I don't mean that to sound critical of how people live, because we've all done that. We've all had jobs and lives like that, and it takes some courage to break out of that. But first you have to start listening to and paying attention to those little nudges you're getting that are saying, well, maybe there's another way. Or something will just cross your path, a book or a YouTube video or a blog post or something, where a conversation, and you'll go, wow, I never even thought that this could be. We didn't realize how big the full-time RV community was until we hit the road. And we still, I think, are still finding it. And the more we do this, we just go, this is huge. There's a lot of people doing this. And they're having a blast.
Yeah.
Having a blast at all ages. We see people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, obviously retired people, 60s, 70s. But sometimes that's the most inspiring thing, is when you see people in their 70s or 80s, and we've even heard of people in their 90s still doing it. It's like, wow, they're just totally rocking it out. It's pretty funny. It's like more generations doing this than people realize.
That's awesome. And so a lot of people are looking for a tribe, and you've found a tribe. And obviously in your tribe and in your lifestyle, you guys, like you said, migrate with the weather. I thought that was hilarious. You're just like, yeah, we move with the weather. That's cool. So you have a lot of friends who truly understand, like Marc knows what it's like to change out a sewer hose for an RV. And there's very few people that know how to do that, but you guys really gel with that. So do you help?
Diver, isn't it?
Right? Do you guys help people transition into this lifestyle? Is that something that you guys offer, or do you guys have any resources for that?
Well, yeah, we've got our blog, our website, RVLove.com, and we've been writing content on that since even before we hit the road, actually. And what we did is we try to create content that we would have liked to have been around when we were starting out. And there was a lot of there were some resources out there, some great blogs and YouTube channels, and they were awesome, but there was still some gaps, you know, and we just wanted to be able to share our spin on it as well. And so we've got that in our YouTube channel, which is RVLove TV, and we've got social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But, you know, we tend to, you know, share different content on each of them. But, you know, we've actually been writing a book. We haven't kind of publicly announced this to anyone yet, but we are working
exclusive on my show. Is this an exclusive announcement?
Oh, no, I feel a little put on the spot now. You asked. I'm just going to keep it a secret for a while. But you asked it. I mean, there is definitely some more content and some the material in the works to help people more, because more and more we're getting people reach out to us asking for, well, have you got this? Have you got that? Can I book a coaching session with you? We just had one, you know, this week, and people wanting to have one-on-one time to be able to help, because, you know, we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours researching this before we did it, and then we've had thousands of hours living it. So, you know, they say that, what do they say? It's like 10,000 hours of something makes you an expert these days. We added it up and we're well over 10,000 hours. So we figured, you know, we don't mind sort of saying we don't know everything, but we probably know a lot more than a lot of people that are starting out and just would like some guidance on the way. What we really try to do, Frank, is, you know, I think because we both have backgrounds in coaching, we both have backgrounds in helping people transform their lives in different careers we've both had. But it's really about taking yourself out of the equation and saying, well, understanding that person and what their needs are, because what our RV setup works perfectly for us. It is absolutely, we nailed it with our research, and we worked hard at that, and we're proud of that because it's made life much easier. But we see people go through, you know, 2 and 3 RVs in 1 or 2 years, and it's like expensive and you lose a lot of money and it's inconvenient. And it's like, if they just taken the time to really get to know themselves and ask these big questions before they made those decisions, it would have saved themselves a lot of heartache and be a lot easier on the wallet. But, you know, everyone's learning as they go, and so I think, you know, some of the resources that we're developing would really help people with that.
Yeah, and that's why we're developing these things, is to be able to help you, because we've both had careers where it's all about helping people transform and improve their lives, and we want to get back to that. And it's so enriching. I mean, like, some of the best moments of this entire journey is when we're packing up or we're leaving an area and someone sees us packing up and they're like, oh my God, you're RVLove, and I've followed your channel and you've helped me change my life. And that is unbeatable. It's fantastic. Special. So it's, but yeah, we, like Julie said too, we meet a lot of really wonderful people on the road, and it's, we have our tribe out here for sure. And it's a very supportive,
very supportive community. Everyone's helping each other out and sharing things. But, you know, people want to stay up with us, they can, you know, follow us on Facebook and YouTube channel, and we've got an email newsletter, which, you know, we'd love to have people join and, you know, be part of the conversation. And because this is not just for retirees anymore, this is really expanding out to people that are also retiring younger. We're meeting a lot of couples that are retiring in their 40s and 50s doing this, meeting a lot of millennials that are 20-something, so seeing this as a different way to travel and have freedom and work from the road, and different way to live, and a lot of 30-somethings and a lot of families with kids are doing this, and homeschooling. I mean, we've met a guy that was almost a billionaire who, you know, had worked these serious high-level executive think tanks, and, you know, was given this basically 6 months to live, and then he realized, what the hell am I doing, working this high-stress job? And he walked away from it all and bought a health ranch, and, you know, employed some people to take care of him in his final months. Well, by stepping out of all of that stress of his life and his business, he started getting well again. And he didn't die after 6 months. In fact, he just rocked it out, married his massage therapist, bought an RV, hit the road, and he's just like full of life, isn't he? He was giving away all of his money. He said, well, what am I going to do with this money? I'm like, I'm going to die. So he started giving. I mean, this was a multi. We're talking hundreds of millionaires. Not quite. He's like 3/4 of a billionaire. It's a lot of money. Giving it away, and then realizing, I'm going to run out of money before I run out of life. So he had to kind of scale it back a bit. But I love that story.
There was wonderful. A lot of cool people like that.
So yeah, it's
everyone's got a story on the road for sure.
Definitely a lot of stories. We'll be sharing some of those.
If somebody wanted to make this change in their life, where would you first recommend for them to start?
That's a really good question. I think the first thing I would do is ask them, why do they think they want to make their change in this life, and really understand the reasoning behind it. Because I think you can hear this story or see a YouTube video and go, oh, that sounds cool, I want to do it. And I think, it is a big change in a lot of levels. And I think people need to really think about why they're doing it and get clear on that.
Yeah.
And I think get the financial piece squared away. Like, I think that's important if you don't want to stress yourself out, if you really want to enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with the why, because you want to know what your motivator is. Like, if your goal is like you want to break free from the norm, or you want a lot of freedom, or you want some of these things, then this is a great lifestyle. But if you're just stuck in where you are, and it's a different thing that you're upset about, like you're wanting more connection or more predictability or something, but don't go this lifestyle, because you got to be flexible, because things that's one of the biggest things for this lifestyle is you got to be flexible. But I agree, you got to ask the whys, and you got to do a little bit of soul searching. But I think you got to ask your questions.
It's a good cure for being a control freak. if you're somebody who likes to control everything in life, and I think a lot of us do, if you're wanting to try and maybe not do that anymore, just go and start RVing, because you can't control everything. There are a lot more things outside of your control. And so I think that's something people really need to ask themselves too, is that, because there is unpredictability. You have to learn to be flexible, and you have to be able to, deal with things that sometimes happen at the most inopportune times. But honestly, we really don't have a lot of that. We hear of some people that have a lot of hassles and headaches with their RVs. And it's like anything. If you buy a bad product or have bad service, you're going to shout from the rooftops and tell everyone about it. So it's like in the RV life, we'll see videos or stories about people talking about all of the problems that they've had, and we'll read and go, we don't have anything like that, and so I think if somebody is looking at doing this and is reading blogs or watching videos or whatever, really take it all into perspective, because sometimes the people out there shouting the loudest, saying, oh, this can go wrong, that can go wrong. And some people like drama. They like creating drama, and also drama on YouTube gets a lot more views. So I think we really try not to do that. I mean, we obviously show when things don't go according to plan, because people seem to really like that when you have a GPS fail. I mean, that does get more views, unfortunately. But we really try to present a balanced view of what the whole lifestyle is, and definitely for the most part, we find it's probably 99% of the time pretty smooth sailing for us.
I'd say, yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty high. I think that's a high percentage, but we did, like I said, I think it's because we put so much time into the soul searching. We both know ourselves very well, and we know that's why we changed our decision on our coach at the last minute. We were going to buy another one, and then we realized Marc's got such a strong focus on work-life balance that we realized that by him not having a separate office was going to be a problem. Him working in a corner in the living area of the RV. And that was a deal breaker. So we at the last minute changed our mind on what coach we were buying, and we ended up buying one that had a bunkhouse that we could convert, so we could have a separate space, and he could pull a curtain on it at the end of the day, and you can't see his computer at all. I mean, it's even my office here in the front passenger area, it's separate to the living area, so none of us have to move our work stuff to use anything else in the main living space. So yeah, there's just some things to think about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, we're definitely gonna wrap this up. I know you guys are it's nighttime over there and morning time here in the Philippines. But before we go, can we get a super quick tour, if it's possible, of just a little bit of the RV, if it's possible? If not, totally cool.
Let me just unplug everything here.
And by the way, I got to give a big shout out to Marc for repping my home state of Texas over there. I see him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're Texans now too.
Yo.
So let's see. Here we go.
Yeah, we switched to Texas because Texas is a really favorable state for people who live mobile.
Yeah.
How so?
Because, well, one, it doesn't have any state income tax. And so since we're still working, I just was able to get a 5%. What's that?
You can't see your face.
Right. Because with no state income tax, I got an automatic 5% raise by moving on paper to Texas since from Colorado. But they also make things really easy to do it via the mail. So we can do all your voter registration. You can do all your license plates and all that stuff. So they have a really good mail service. So, but yeah, let's give them a quick tour, babe.
Yeah. Okay. So where we were just sitting, hang on, I'm just trying to get the camera in the right spot. Where we were just sitting, this is the front of the RV. So that's where we were just sitting here in my office area, if you can see that still.
Yeah, we can.
Laptops. I mean, that's a pull-out laptop tray that just works as a keyboard tray for me. And then over here, I'll just turn. So that sort of gives you the main, this is the living area. So you can see it's pretty wide.
Marc looks so far away.
Yeah, he is. And so over here we have a pull-out sofa. So that does, we don't normally tell people, but that does pull out to be a queen-size bed.
You don't tell people because you don't want them to stay with you?
Yeah, pretty much. There's hang on. There's like just a little, another armchair. And then over here is the dining area. And we actually, that had like a booth dinette table that you probably have seen in RVs before. And it just wasn't really working. So we took it out and put like a little cocktail table in there, which is pretty small. But now it's like this little U-shaped kind of cozy little nook, which is cool. And here's our kitchen. See if I can get all that in.
And so that's a dishwasher, right?
No, we don't have a dishwasher. Here's the dishwasher. So we've got it's like a convection microwave combination, which is interesting because most RVs have a convection microwave and most RVs don't know how to use a convection, but it's super easy. And this does have an oven, as you can see there, but I really don't use it anymore. I use the convection now. It's awesome. And what else? There's one of the TVs. That's the only one we have now. That's like pantry storage above and below there. And then let's show them your office, hon. There's the fridge, if you can see that.
Yeah. So this is my workspace. You can see it's totally ergonomic. I've got a nice, working chair, and I've got.
Yeah, we can see it. What did this used to be? What used to be here?
This is this is called a bunkhouse. This used to be bunk beds. So right around this level was a second bed, and then so there would be one on the ground and one here, and they had beds, and they have little TV monitors up here so they can play their Nintendos or whatever. But I converted that to this is my workspace. I've got my dual monitors and perfect ergonomics for my keyboard, and it's a great space. And as Julie said, I can close the curtains at the end of the day.
And it's not it's literally in a hallway there, Frank. So if you look here, so where Marc is now, you can see that's where the living area and the kitchen is right behind him. And that door there is the bathroom. And where I'm standing in the bedroom, so it's kind of like where his office is, it's in a little hallway with doors, with little pocket doors that we can show them how that closes.
Yeah, so I can close off from the main part of the house. And I can close off from the bedroom if Julie's having a sleep in.
So we really do have separate office spaces because if either of us or both of us are on conference calls, we can literally close the door between us and not be bothering one another, which is definitely something to think about if you're both working in an RV. And of course, here's the bedroom. That was a television, and we took it out and put artwork up instead. And that's not a real light. That's just decorative. But yeah, that's
so there you go.
That's the home on wheels.
Nice. That's amazing. That's so cool. Thank you so much for bringing us into your home and your lifestyle. This is really going to motivate a lot of people. If somebody wanted to get next to you guys and get a part of your inner circle and get connected with you, where should they go?
Go to RVLove.com and they can sign up for emails. And don't worry, we hate spam as much as you do. So definitely won't be getting any of that. But, we share a whole variety of content on there, with blog posts and videos. And then there's social media. All of our social media links are on the website. So if you go to RVLove.com, scroll down to the bottom into the footer and you'll see all of the social links. But, yeah, We'd love to see some of these guys come and learn some more about this lifestyle and how we can share some of our content to help them. Yeah, it's a pretty cool way to live.
Well, thanks so much for having us on, Frank. We love being able to come chat with you. You've got really great questions, too. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, I appreciate that. And thank you again for just shedding some light on this alternative lifestyle that I feel is very viable, that's going to be a lot more prominent and popular as technology really, really starts to scale up over the next few years. Thank you again.
Thank you. See ya.